Welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. My stack of stuff. Yeah, buddy, hold on. We worked hard today on this fine radio program. Some interesting notes that came out of the SEC meetings from several coaches. Brian Kelly said something that made a lot of sense. Imagine that. He's getting paid a lot of money, so maybe he'll start making some sense on some stuff. We'll get into that. Also, we'll talk about Jimbo Fisher talked a little bit about who he wants as his permanent opponent. Kirby Smart talked about the quarterback stuff at Georgia. We'll get into that too. New conference championship odds are out, and they are interesting. Some of them are very interesting. So we'll get into that momentarily. But I got to start with a young fan snuck into the SEC spring meetings and basically set the world on fire because he approached Nick Saban and told him, okay, what you've done is cool, basically, but he offered him $5,000 to basically, well, we'll let Nick Saban tell you. Here's what Nick Saban said. This young fan, this high school fan, said to him about LSU.
He made an offer for me to retire. Or come back to LSU, one or the other. But I think LSU has a good coach. They have a lot of good players, so we've had a lot of competitive games with them, and I'm sure there'll be no different in the future when it comes to competition versus LSU.
All right, a couple of things on that. Number one, who the hell in high school had $5,000 that they could just go up and walk to someone and say, you know what, coach, I'll give you $5,000 to come back or to retire? I mean, who had that kind of money? Wow, $5,000. I'm gonna have that sitting in my bank account. I can go, and then I'm gonna have the stature to walk into the SEC spring meetings and then talk to one of the all-time winningest coaches in college history and tell him, hey, you should retire. Here's $5,000. That's your crazy story from today, from the SEC meetings, which are going on right about now. So, yeah, we'll respond to that if you want it, 803-978-1832. Also, Brian Kelly talked a little bit about the runaway train of NIL. Per MSN.com, he said he worries that college football is moving towards a professional-type contracts, saying, quote, this has turned into a runaway train that has moved well past the student athlete and is moving too fast towards a professional contract. I don't think that's what the intentions were, so we're going to need some guidelines here before this gets thrown into Congress. Let's just put this out there from the beginning. If it gets to a point where Congress has to get involved, college football is over. I'm telling you right now. If we get to a point where Congress has to put out guidelines, that means that college football as we know it is completely done. Nothing that involves the government will eventually lead to good things. There is so much corruptness in the government and across everywhere. Open up your local paper and you'll see that. But the idea that, hey, Congress can fix it is a line of silly. Kelly then said, I don't think they want contracts. I don't think they want to be traded. I'm sure they don't want to be cut. I'm sure they're not going to like getting a call at 3 p.m. saying, hey, I don't know, but we traded you to St. Bonaventure. Oh, they don't have a football team. Yeah, I get where he's coming from with that. But that's something nobody else talks about. And I think there's a set of folks on the player side that they want to have their cake and eat it too. And you can't have that. If we're going to go to this pro-style contract, okay, that's great. You're going to get to go to, let's say, Alabama, but You get to Alabama and they thought you were going to be wide receiver 1. You end up being wide receiver 7. We're going to trade you to Mizzou. Sucks to be you. Head out. It's the way it's going to go if we have the whole contracts there. So there's that. That's kind of interesting and an interesting way to put it. But regardless of whether you're a fan of whatever, it comes down to this. Congress gets involved. We all lose. So I think that the college football higher-ups, they understand that. And getting it to a point where Congress has any say in it is not going to work. It's just not. Anyway, if you want to respond to that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jay says 5Gs is a great night out. Poor Jay. I worry about Jay. 803-978-1832. As I pulled my headphone wire out of my headphones. That's not good. There we go. Anyway, 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. By the way, the main topic today that we're going to get into is if you are in your conference and we get to a point where with the new scheduling model, you get one permanent rival in your conference, which one do you want? If you're picking from in your conference, who do you want? Now, if you've been in the SEC for a while, like Alabama and Auburn makes the most sense. If we don't have the Iron Bowl, they're going to burn the trailer parks down in Alabama. That's going to happen. So there's that for you. Okay. Also, other rivals that are probably going to be right there in the mix, you would think that, man, LSU and Florida, they play each other every year. That would probably be in the mix as well. But what are some of the other ones? I mean, for South Carolina, who should they want? Should it be Kentucky? Should it be Mizzou? Should it be Arkansas, who they entered the conference with? Jimmy's got a great point there. Georgia and Florida. That's a game that you probably want every year. But if we get to a point now where we have one permanent conference rival, which way do you go? Pick your team. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. Of course, you can do it with whatever conference you're in. Zona Tucson 93 says, I would want Southern Cal as a permanent conference opponent out in the Pac-12. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Alan's not paying attention. I said within your conference, but he says give UGA Clemson every season. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a point. Wasn't there a point where the two schools basically ducked each other for a while? They should be playing each other. That would make the most sense. It's not going to happen, but it should. Just like South Carolina should play North Carolina every year. It's just the way that it should be. Dakota says Vanderbilt isn't a rival, so that's out. But like for Tennessee, do you want to keep Alabama? Or do you want to go with Kentucky every year? Guaranteed that's going to happen. And then after that, we'll do the best to try to accommodate some of the biggest rivalries. But if we set in stone, look, we're going to have Georgia and Florida, well, then do we lose Georgia and Auburn? Things to think about. Now, Texas A&M, they supposedly, according to Jimbo Fisher, want Texas as their permanent rival. How many people, by the way, think that Texas is going to get into the league and realize this is not the Big 12 and we want out? We want to be an independent. We shall see on that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Aaron, it says Vanderbilt is our biggest rival. We must play them every year. It means the world to us. Okay. I don't know how that's going to work. But the rivals that I have set in rock, in my opinion, you've got to have Alabama and Auburn. And you've got to have Georgia and Florida. And I would venture to say after that, it's kind of open season, I guess. Oh, and I'm sorry, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Those two have to play each other every year in the Egg Bowl. But then after that, you can kind of go from there. Kind of figure out, all right, we're going to have these guys every year. All right. I don't think that there's any that are really set in rock after that. I think Mizzou and Arkansas, they don't like each other, but playing every year, okay. And of course, Texas A&M and Texas. But who would you want as your permanent rival if you're in the SEC? In the ACC, I think Clemson and Florida State should play every year. I also think Clemson and North Carolina State should play. The Textile Bowl should be a matchup that's there. Virginia and Virginia Tech should play each other. And let's see here. Duke and North Carolina should play each other in football. Jay says Georgia losing Auburn, either model you go with. Yeah, that's the point there. And then Kirby's Visor says Georgia keeps Florida and Auburn and Tennessee, yet kicks Tech off the schedule for a decent program. Look, I think that there's a lot of folks that when you really step down to it, the idea of having someone outside of your conference as your rival, if they don't really give you much on your schedule, and playing them could hurt your chances of making the college football playoff, the idea of getting rid of some of these matchups makes a lot of sense. I mean, we can go down the board. Georgia playing Georgia Tech does not help the Georgia Bulldogs schedule. It doesn't. It gives Georgia Tech a Super Bowl every single year at the end of the year. I mean, look at the way that matchup is. I think Georgia Tech's won what? I mean, I'd have to look it up. They don't win very many games there. Okay? You can make the same argument for Clemson and South Carolina. South Carolina most years doesn't help Clemson's schedule. It's the same way with other teams. Louisville doesn't help the Kentucky schedule for a good part of the year. So we may get to a point where some of those games might have to go away. If I'm sitting as an athletic director and I know going into a season that I've got to have a top-notch schedule, and I can look at it and say, you know what, this game may hurt us, I think I'd want to try to get that game out of there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Of course, Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher says he wants Texas as a permanent opponent, but he also says, I hope we can still schedule FCS opponents, which is absolutely stupid. The idea of going into every season and you're like, okay, we've got to play Western Illinois or some directional school from somewhere else. That doesn't work for me. And what do you get from that, by the way? Let's roll that out for a second. If you're in game one of the season and you're going to play a team that, wouldn't make your third string, all right, how do you benefit from that? Getting out there and I guess getting some reps. Might as well play a JV game. Might be more viable than anything else. But in the end, I don't see how, especially for the fans, how that works. Now, on the other end, a lot of times you can have that game and it can fund an entire athletic department for a year. We could take South Carolina State, for example. If South Carolina State plays South Carolina or Clemson, they'll probably get $450,000 to go play that game, take their 56-0 loss, and they've got money for the athletic department for the year. I get that, how that works for them. But I think the idea of having especially more than one game on that schedule, I like the idea of being able to help your in-state teams, whereas in our state, like South Carolina and Clemson would rotate with playing, SC State, Furman, Wofford, etc., to help out the athletic programs there. The problem that I have, though, is when you end up with, let's say, what was it, a couple of years ago, South Carolina State went to Wisconsin to play. Why? I mean, I understand that they got money to go up there and do it, and it makes a lot of sense from the financial standpoint for them, but what did Wisconsin get out of that? They won that game 57-0 or something like that. It just doesn't work. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. If you want to talk about what we've gone with there. Billy says, now you're talking strength of schedule. Let's go back to the BCS setup. Yeah, okay. Fine with that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Dakota says, like Tennessee paid Georgia State. Now, see, Georgia State is not an FCS type program. Okay? I'm talking about playing like a team that can play for the FCS playoffs. That's what I'm talking about. Now, some of those games would make some sense, but I just don't get it. Let's see here. Aaron says, who is South Carolina's biggest conference rival? I mean, you can make an argument that it's Georgia. I don't know. When they came in, their permanent rival across for the West Side was Arkansas. Then they changed it up and went to Texas A&M. So I don't really know with South Carolina which way that would go. That is a good question, though. Billy says, leave the in-state end-of-year rivals alone. Georgia Tech won a natty years ago. You never know. For Vanderbilt, never. Okay. I get that. Jay is making stupid comments and is obviously drinking antifreeze today with it being hot outside. So I won't read Jay's comments today because they're galactically stupid. If you'd like to see them, go and find it in the chat room. It's on the Fox Sports Radio 1400 Facebook page. Please, Jay, don't drink antifreeze. It's not good for you. It's not. It's your public service announcement today here on the rundown. Don't do that. No, nobody wants that. It's not going to work out well for you. Don't drink antifreeze. You're welcome, sir. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Oh, good luck with that, Peg and Megan. Daddy-O, that's an interesting thing there. I would go as a Clemson fan, as far as conference opponent, I think Clemson should play Florida State every year. You can make an argument for NC State, but if I'm in the ACC and I'm just looking at it from a perspective of what's best as far as best matchups, I want Florida State and Miami playing each other every year. And Clemson and North Carolina State can do the same thing. Wake Forest should play Duke. Wake Forest should probably play. I don't know. Duke and North Carolina should play on the football front, though. That's a good point. Good point there, Peg and Megan. Hilarious. I was doing a bit on our morning show this morning here, and we were talking about how the over and under for South Carolina at 6 wins is low, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, they play in the SEC East where after Georgia, it's crap. So they should win more than 6 games. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Who would you want as your permanent SEC rival if you're South Carolina, or pick your favorite team there? If you are in the ACC, who do you want as your permanent rival? We're taking calls on that today. Jimbo Fisher said, according to Brett McMurphy, he would love to play Texas. Texas, by the way, leads that series 76-37-5. I think that's kind of funny because of the fact that Texas A&M left the Big 12 just to get, gone from Texas. Now their football coach is like, yeah, we want to play Texas every year. I think that if they keep the East-West stuff the way they have it now, and you end up with Texas and Oklahoma going there and Alabama going to the East, the Texas game would probably be, I don't know, the 4th toughest game on the Texas A&M schedule. So getting Texas on the schedule but dropping Alabama makes Texas A&M's schedule a hell of a lot easier. So maybe that's what Jimbo Fisher's thinking about. Here's some dumb. See, there you go. Clemson will be mediocre in the SEC East. Tell me who in the SEC East has a better program other than Georgia, than Clemson right now. Are you really want to go down that road with 2 national titles in 5 years? Now, y'all don't want to talk about that. Y'all just want to sit there and act dumber than a bag of hammers. Okay? If you think Clemson couldn't play an SEC East schedule and be dominant, they got to get up for 1 game a year, and that's Georgia. Rest of the schedule is hot dog water. I stand by that. Yay, let's go to Kroger Field. Whoo-wee, that would be tough. Stop it. Losing your minds with the silliness today. Speaking of which, the latest odds are out to win the conference championships have been released. The Pac-12, very interesting, with Southern Cal at the same money line basically as Utah at plus 234. Oregon right there on their tail at 315. Then it goes with UCLA at plus 900, and then all the way down to Colorado. It's kind of hard to believe Colorado was at one point a great football team. Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. In the Big 12, they've got Oklahoma up top at plus 205, and then Texas at plus 225, followed by Baylor at 516, and then Oklahoma State at plus 1,000. You know what? I would put some money on Oklahoma State. If I were out in Las Vegas, I'd throw some money at plus 1,000 on Oklahoma State. Anybody be really shocked if the mullet went out there with Derek Mason as his defensive coordinator and won the Big 12? I wouldn't be stunned. Wouldn't be stunned at all. Iowa State's there at 1050. After that, not so much. In the ACC, it's Clemson's to lose at plus 150, followed by Miami at 475, Pitt at 575, North Carolina at 750, NC State at plus 1,000. We were talking the other day about teams that are currently projected to be in the top 10. NC State is there, and they return, 9 starters, I think, on both sides of the ball. On paper, you would think that maybe put some money on NC State. I don't know if I'm buying that or not. I'd go with Wake Forest at plus 1,500, though. If I were, putting a long shot bet, I'd go with Wake Forest. Go with Wake Forest. In the SEC, it's Alabama minus 130. Lots of love there for the Tide. Georgia's at plus 143. And then after that, it's hot dog water. Texas A&M at 2150, which I would not bet a cent. I wouldn't take money from Peg and Megan to bet on Texas A&M this year. Ole Miss is at plus 3350. I wouldn't take Billy's money to bet on Ole Miss either. Arkansas is at plus 5,000. Tennessee's at 5,000. Florida's at plus 5,300. Kentucky's at plus 7,000. Same for LSU. South Carolina is at plus 10,000. There you go. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Billy says, I don't know about other SEC schools, but Clemson is 6-11 against Tennessee. Okay, do you want to really break that down, sir? This is a Tennessee team that hasn't done anything since 1998. I mean, you had a year where you didn't win a conference game. That means you lost to Vanderbilt, and you're trying to put yourself on the level of where Clemson is? Bless your heart, sir. Bless your sweet little heart. Anyway, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Now, when you bring up that old 6-11 record, I mean, that's like saying we might as well go with talking about how Yale has the most national titles because they played some football back in leather helmets in the 1940s, and that's how Tennessee has the advantage. Okay. If that's the way that you want to go. Billy probably played in some of those games, though. I shouldn't mock Billy too much. His leather helmet probably wasn't screwed on tight enough there to make a comment like that. 803-978-1832. Who do you want as your permanent conference opponent? And which team are you going to bet on if you're going to pick your long shot? In the Pac-12, I'd probably go with UCLA. It's not really a long shot to go with Georgia as your long shot in the SEC, so I guess I'd go Arkansas there. I'd probably go Pitt in the ACC, and I would take Oklahoma State in the Big 12 at plus 1,000. 803-978-1832. Now, see, Peg and Megan's being dumb now. Rob, you had no problem bringing up 1980. Were they wearing leather helmets in 1980, sir? Were they wearing leather helmets in 1980? Okay, please sit down. Get your jug of antifreeze from your good friend Jay over there and go about your merry way. I know it's hot outside. People getting, it's weird, man. We're getting into the talking portion of the season and people are getting dumber by the second. Some Vanderbilt fan's going to call up here and tell me they're going 6-6 this year. That'll happen. No, Pagan does not have a good point there, Eric. Pagan is being dumber than that bag of hammers. It's not a joke. The bookcase of accountability is to my right. I am putting a picture of Peg and Megan on a trash can. We're going to put all of his takes in that trash can that's going to sit there next to the bookcase of accountability. He doesn't get to put his stuff up there because none of it ever really happens. This is the guy that said Stetson Bennett couldn't lead the team to a championship. There's no way that Georgia's going to win a championship because of hangnails and tampon strings caught on toenails. That's what he was feeding us last year. We're going to have his take over there, his box, his own special box. You know, he doesn't call much anymore. I mean, he probably got tired of getting his face handed to him. But we're going to have his own little box over there because I'm sure he'll be calling during football season. Anyway, 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown as we talk about permanent conference opponents. The LSU fan that went up to Nick Saban.
He made an offer for me to retire. Or come back to LSU, one or the other. But I think LSU has a good coach. They have a lot of good players, so we've had a lot of competitive games with them, and I'm sure there will be no different in the future when it comes to competition versus LSU.
There you go. Someone said, can you say tampon string on the air? Yes, you could say tampon string. Why not? You get your toenail caught on that would suck. What's wrong with you people? Can't talk about tampon strings? Ridiculous. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. More when we return. Learn to speak English, Rob. We'll be right back. Undefeated about what? Drugs are bad, begging Megan. Jay says, toenail caught on tampon string. What kind of crap are you into? I don't know. I'm not into crap where I have to block people in the chat room. I know that. I don't have to block people in the chat room. Of the two of us, who's been blocking people in the chat room, Jay? Take your hat and sit down. Drink your antifreeze and shut the hell up. One of us blocks people in a chat room and the other one doesn't. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. Getting your tampon string caught on your toenails, that's basically what happens when you block people in a chat room. I don't do that. Okay. Really, Jay? Really? Are you sure, Jay? Which game are you watching, Jet? I'm in the Midlands. I'm always in the Midlands. 803-978-1832. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like to join the program, 803-978-1832. Women's College World Series is underway. Someone said, who was it that's playing right now? Oh, Northwestern and Oklahoma. Yeah. If you're into the college softball, why not? Have at it. I have a friend whose daughter pitches for South Carolina State. So, yeah, kind of watch some of those games. Anyway, yeah, we do have the college baseball tournament starting tomorrow. So I got a bracket right in front of me here. When you're looking at it from a Clemson perspective, you're like, oh, I wonder which one of these coaches is going to be our next head coach. I think it's going to come out of the East Carolina Regional. Will it be the ECU coach? Will it be the Coastal Carolina coach? By the way, that's got to be the toughest regional. You have two teams that won a national title in the past 5 seasons in the same regional. And, oh, by the way, they're not the 1 seed. That would be East Carolina. Tough regional, in my opinion. I'm going to put this out there, too. I was actually doing some time with Teddy Hefner this morning, who's here on every day from 9 to noon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Here's the big thing with this. When you watch Tennessee, someone is going to get Tennessee. I know they're the overwhelming favorite. If they get to Omaha, I'd probably be shocked. The reason that I say that is that Tennessee played against great pitching in the SEC all season. They got guys throwing, 90, 94 all over the place, and they're playing a lot of guerrilla baseball. They're hitting lots of home runs and everything else. Someone is going to have some junk left-hander that throws in the 70s with his fastball, and those guys aren't going to know how to hit it. And it's nothing to do with them. It's just they've never faced a junk ball guy like that. And when you play that guerrilla baseball, it'll eventually catch up with you. I think Tennessee is going to get ousted. Probably not in the first round because everyone in their regional is really good. Their second round opponent, though, Georgia Southern could get them. Texas Tech could probably play with them as well, and Notre Dame is solid too. Just saying. Peg and Megan, I swear I never bet on or predict baseball, especially college baseball. I'm just saying the way that they play. And Tennessee fans, if they're honest, they'll agree with that to a point. They've never seen a pitcher like that. Someone will have some junky ball left-hander that'll go out there and can barely touch 70 on the gun, but can put the ball wherever he wants it. They're not going to be able to hit 3-run homers. And they're going to end up getting caught. Watch. Remember, it's only like one team is the number one seed has won the College World Series since like 1989, I think. Tennessee won't be that team this year. They're not going to win the College World Series. We'll put that on the bookcase of accountability. Anyway, if you want to get into that, 803-978-1832. And it's just the way I look at it. Balanced teams end up doing a lot better, in my opinion. I think Tennessee plays too much gorilla ball. We shall see. 803-978-1832. Oh, look at that. D4 Sports says, I was there when they lost to Tennessee Tech, and they had a junk ball pitcher. Uh-oh. You know what? We're going to highlight that comment for a minute. He's right. Those junk ball pitchers, they make you do silly things. You think you're going to go up there and you're going to mammoth hit it to the moon, and you end up grounding out to the shortstop. Just saying. 803-978-1832. I think I made all the Tennessee fans upset. Please call up and tell me why that you're going to win. Yes, you've got a good pitching staff. Yeah, you've got all of that. You can have all of that and still get caught in the baseball tournament. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. There are other pretty good teams that are in the mix too. When you look at just the number one seeds, Oregon State's pretty good. Florida's played pretty good baseball, even though they just lost to Tennessee in the SEC tournament. But Texas has had a good season. There's lots of pretty good teams out there. Just don't think Tennessee's going to be in the mix. Eric says Rob's got his opinion. Peg and Megan says, so who's your pick to win it all on the baseball front? I think Tennessee is going to get got. I'm going to use that terminology there. I think it'll come down to, let's see here. I like Oregon State. I like the Florida Gators. And I like Texas. One of those four there. There you go with that. Georgia Southern will probably be pretty good too. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. And Sancho's right. You know, they're Tennessee, they're top 5 in every stat. You lose once, and then you got to figure out, all right, we've lost. It's double elimination. Who's going to go out and get those extra wins for us? That's what makes it hard. I'm not saying Tennessee's not a good team. They're a great team. Could they win the entire thing? Yes, they could. I just think with the style that they play, if they face the right kind of pitching, which is crummy pitching, control pitching, where I don't care if I throw 70 miles an hour, they're going to get, they're not having to deal with that. And they're going to be got. It's just the way it goes. 803-978-1832. Peg and Began says I said 24 teams. No, sir, I said 4. Math is hard. I think Peg and Megan went to like a private school where they just promoted him because his mom gave him a big check. Just promote my son. To graduate, he had to figure out what 2 + 2 was. The teacher was holding up a card that said 4, but there was another card that said 5. He said 5, and then all of a sudden, she goes, no, say it's 4. Oh, okay, it's 4. You're graduated. Great. Get the hell out of here. I think that's what happened with him. 4 teams, sir. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Uncle Lou with the comment that makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine having to pretend baseball is exciting just because my football team is terrible. Yes, you're right. And I've said this before too. Folks that clamor about college baseball, yeah, it's fun to watch, But winning a college baseball national title is not that impressive. You're only playing against what, maybe 40% of the country? Remember, they're just now thawing out in certain parts of the country here. College baseball is not a sport once you go pretty much past the Mason-Dixon line. I'm sorry if that hurts feelings. It's a regional sport. So winning a national title in it, I mean, yeah, it's great. It's awesome. But it's not as like the most big across the world accomplishment as winning either the basketball tournament or the football title. It's just not. It's a regional sport. It really is. Anyway, we'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. Daddy says, don't forget California. I mean, if I say California, are they going to tax me on that? They tax everything else out there. Anyway, 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. Billy says, if Clemson was ranked number 1 and in the regionals, Rob would be through the roof. No, sir. No, I wouldn't. I've said forever, college baseball is a regional sport. It's half the country doesn't play, sir. I'm sorry. You've got what, the SEC, the ACC, and the Pac-12. The other teams, they'll put other conferences, they'll put teams out there. But in the end, it comes down to those 3 conferences, basically. The SEC right now has a leg up on everyone. They've got great teams up and down the board. You could do the SEC Invitational. You really could. But to put it into perspective for you, the Citadel down in Charleston has gone to the College World Series. Yeah, that's happened. Was it Stony Brook made the College World Series, I believe, not too long ago? More of the Rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. You want to bet on that, Jay? You going to bet that cup of antifreeze you've been drinking over there today? Brandon says in 2010, Clemson was 1 win away from the College World Series finals. Who sent them home? That would be South Carolina. By the way, I stand by this too. Clemson fired a better coach in Monty Lee than South Carolina has on staff right now. Gamecock fans, deal with that. That's absolutely true. Exactly. They just don't play baseball up north, man. It's too cold. I mean, you're winning against basically a third of the country. I love college baseball, but winning a championship in it, yeah, it's hard, but it's not the greatest. And you got the metal bats. The metal bats. Come on, man. Metal bats are ridiculous. Peg and Megan, you bless your heart. Bless you and Jay's heart. Y'all gonna be pissed off to the end of time when you actually watch that game and realize, what did I say? It's not happening. It's not happening at all. Yeah, a lot of those SEC teams, though, they haven't played since the 60s, back when you were in high school, though, Billy. So it's not really a fair assessment. I don't think that look, if we want to talk baseball for a second, Clemson can't compete in the SEC. Nope. That is such a bad take there, Peg and Megan. I'm not going to grace the trash can with that. I mean, it is so far down the pipe. Not going to do that to you. Not going to do that to you. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Thanks to the folks watching the show today. Uncle Lou says baseball is just a sport that dads make their kids play to relive their own past. Well, he may have a point there. Remember what Will Ferrell said about baseball? It's gotten to the point now where if you watch a major league game, it's basically nine guys that are from out of the country. We don't really have a lot of American players anymore. He's right about that. Kids don't play baseball anymore. They want to be basketball players. They want to be football players. I mean, that's just the way that it is. We don't have any can't really bench on a lot of great American-made baseball players anymore. That's why we don't do well when we come to the Olympics and everything else. Not like we used to. Billy says soccer is just a sport dad makes their kids play because they can't play anything else. Look, I'm not a soccer guy, but the line from people that do the soccer thing is, it's the world sport. It's the world sport. Okay. Then that's fine. Do your thing, man. If you want to play soccer, as long as your kids are getting out there and getting active, who cares? I'm not going to watch soccer. I'll watch my kid play soccer if they want to play, but I'm not going to go out there and, hey, let's all get jazzed up and we're going to watch, insert whatever here, the Charlotte team. Yeah. What is it? Charlotte FC playing whoever. My buddy Will Pelagic, who's one of my best friends in radio, is the play-by-play voice of the Charlotte FC team. And he would come on this show and talk to us about all the great stuff that is Charlotte soccer. But I know that people here will be like, what in the blue hell are you doing? There's a niche audience for that. My buddy Lawton Swan, who's on after us, he's big into soccer. Me, not so much. It's just, it's tough. It's tough to watch. Jay says, I get winded watching soccer. Sir, why are you so hateful today? Be nice, Jay. Dakota says, I love watching women's soccer. Let's see here. Yeah. People, lots of great stuff in the chat room. It's throwing me off. All right. 803-978-1832. If you want to talk about who should be your permanent conference rival, we'll take those calls today. As we're I think, we're like 85 days away from college football games being played, which means we're how many days there? Today is June 2nd. So there's 30 days in June and then 20 days in July, basically. So we're like 55 days, 52 days, something like that, from SEC meetings and all that, ACC kickoff, all of that. Yeah, we'll have all that for you covered here right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Lee says soccer is the cheapest sport to play. Yeah, I can see that. And there's a whole equipment issue with baseball too. You got to have this and bats and gloves and ball bags and everything else. You got to have all that. Yeah. So we shall see. We're going to be finding out here soon who are going to be the player representatives going to SEC Media Days and to ACC Kickoff. I'm working with some folks. I might go to both. I might go to Atlanta and cover the Gamecocks when they're there that day, and then go to Charlotte and cover Clemson on the day that they're there, if the schedule works out. If they're both there on the same day, I can only be in one place at a time. I don't know. We shall see. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Brandon says, I'd love to see Rob interview Jimbo Fisher. Yeah, I've got questions for Jimbo Fisher. I can be respectful with folks. I'm not scared to interview anyone. It's not that big of a deal. Jay says, why broke countries love it? Also on no TV contracts because no commercial spots for soccer. Yeah. I kind of buy that too. 803-978-1832 as we roll along here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Jimbo Fisher's on the record saying he wants Texas as his permanent opponent. Okay. Pagan says Jimbo would own you, Rob. I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, I'm going to ask him questions he's not going to get at the Texas A&M fan club. But I mean, that's with any coach that I interview. So yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there, sir. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Latest odds are out for the conference championship. Southern Cal and Utah are tied at plus 234. Alabama leads the way in the SEC at minus 130. Clemson's at plus 150. Oklahoma's at plus 205. And then it goes down from there. So, man, look at where Auburn is. They're at plus 15,500. Wow. I mean, wow. Auburn's way down there. Florida State's at plus 2,500 for in the ACC. Interesting. My bets for the long shots, I think I put those out there. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State and Pitt, and I would probably go with, I mean, you could go Arkansas or Tennessee. You're going to just, throw some money out there. And I'd probably go Oregon in the Pac-12. So there's that. Anyway. Oh, I got this on Kirby Smart today. I forgot to bring this up. He was on the Paul Feinbaum show in Destin today, and he says, talking about the quarterback rooms, he says, well, the best programs, you got good quarterback rooms. We got a really good room. We got 3 guys and an incoming freshman that we think are talented. The 3 guys battled in the spring and got reps and grew. I was so proud of Brock and Carson and how much better they got. I can't wait to see the 29 practices they get leading up to the first game to continue to grow. But within that, Stetson had a really good spring too. Stetson went out and made some plays. He's grown and gotten better. This is a guy that didn't get those reps. You think of a national championship quarterback, oh, he got all the reps last spring. He didn't. He wasn't the guy. He was the 3rd string last spring. So some of these are in the first time getting reps. And he's also very comfortable in Coach Monken's offense, which is going to give us a chance to be more successful. So I took 2 things away from that. First of all, the toughest defense that Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett is going to face is the one he squares off with in practice every day. I'll buy that until the SEC championship game. Anyone else want to argue that point against me? Yeah, he's going to make mistakes. He's playing the toughest defense he'll play every day in practice. So there's that. And the other thing, too, is, oh, bless your heart, Brock Vandergriff and Carson Beck. I'm still going with Stetson Bennett. So there's that. I think he's going to roll with Bennett until the wheels fall off. Some folks will like that and some folks won't. But I stand by what I said about the defense. Toughest defense he faces is the one he goes against every day in practice. All right, 803-978-1832. Brandon says, I don't think Arkansas will be as good as expected this year. Well, we shall see. People are in love with Sam Pittman. Like, in Arkansas, I mean, he's like parting the Red Seas, man. People love him. Jay says Stetson got to UGA in 2016. We saw his ceiling. It's 5'8". Yeah, but he's a little bit taller when he stands on that national championship trophy. All right. Appreciate you guys joining us here today on the rundown. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Don't forget, we're brought to you by Mazda of Columbia, MazdaofColumbia.com. We'll be back at it right here at 3 o'clock tomorrow on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I never said he wasn't crazy. Man, Peg and Megan's just a bag of dumb today. You really are. I think we all should chip in and get Peg and Megan one of those happy endings in that damn Jacksonville massage parlor. Get him leveled out a little bit. Your Hyundai ukulele for a Kia Klubnik. That's funny. All right. Appreciate you guys, man. We'll talk to you later on.